"You still haven't touched me," said my alien wife as she jumped on me. Marcus Chen stood in the grand hall of the Thalashan royal palace, water dripping from his environmental suit. He had not expected this. Not at all. "A marriage," he repeated, looking at his translator device to make sure it was working correctly. "You want me to marry your princess?" His body was sleek and covered in scales that changed colors like an oil slick. When he spoke, the water around him vibrated with sound. "Yes, Ambassador Chen. This is our highest honor. Princess Navira will bond with you. This will unite our people forever." Earth needed the Thalashans as allies. Their water world controlled the only safe hyperspace route through this sector of the galaxy. Without their cooperation, human ships would need to take a path that was 3 months longer. I am honored," Marcus said slowly. "But I should contact my government first. This is a very important decision. If we miss this tide, we must wait another full cycle. That is 5 of your Earth years." The water around the High Chancellor exploded with bright colors. Other Thalashans in the hall began to pulse with light. Marcus realized they were celebrating. "Wonderful! Princess Navira will be so pleased. Come, we must prepare you." Hundreds of Thalashans floated around him in circles, their bodies creating patterns of light. Then she appeared. Princess Navira swam into the chamber and Marcus forgot to breathe for a moment. She was not like the other Thalashans. Her body was more slender, covered in scales that shimmered between blue and silver. She had large eyes that seemed to glow with their own light. Flowing fins extended from her arms and back, moving through the water like silk in the wind. Patterns of bioluminescence ran along her body, pulsing gently. She was beautiful. Alien, yes, but beautiful. The ceremony involved singing in the Thalashan language, which sounded like whale songs mixed with wind chimes. Marcus had to repeat words he did not understand. Navira circled around him several times, her fins brushing close but never quite touching him. At the end, the High Chancellor declared them bonded, and all the Thalashans flashed their lights in unison. It was done. Marcus was married. After the ceremony, Marcus was taken back to his diplomatic quarters on the human station orbiting Thalasha. The station was a compromise, a place where both species could meet comfortably. It had both air-filled rooms for humans and water-filled rooms for Thalashans. "The princess will join you shortly," the High Chancellor said. "She will live here now, as is our custom. The bonded must share space. How else would you build your connection?" It was filled with water from Thalasha, complete with lights and what looked like floating plants. Then Navira arrived. She came through a water-filled corridor that connected to Marcus's quarters. When she emerged into his living space, she was wearing a different kind of suit, one that kept a layer of water around her body so she could move through air. She could breathe air for short periods, the workers explained, but it was not comfortable for long. "Hello, Marcus Chen," she said. Her voice was musical even through the translator. "I am pleased to share this space with you. Titles are not needed between us." "Is this your family?" she asked, pointing at a photo of Marcus with his parents and sister. "Yes, that is from 5 years ago before I joined the diplomatic service." "I understand. I miss my birth pod as well, but we make new pods, yes, you and I." Marcus went to his diplomatic meetings during the day, working on the details of the trade agreement with the Thalashan Council. Navira attended some of these meetings, floating in a water-filled chair designed for her species. She was intelligent and asked good questions. Marcus found himself impressed by her understanding of interstellar trade law, but when they returned to their quarters each evening, a strange tension filled the air, or the water, or whatever. Marcus was careful to give Navira space. He did not want to make her uncomfortable. She was an alien princess who had been forced to marry a stranger. He figured the least he could do was be respectful and not invade her personal space. He always waited for her to enter a room first. When they passed each other in the corridor, he pressed himself against the wall to give her plenty of room. During meals, which they ate separately because their foods were completely different, he made sure to sit far enough away that she would not feel crowded. Naviera watched him during these moments. Her bioluminescence would flicker through colors Marcus did not understand. Sometimes she seemed about to say something, but then she would close her mouth and swim away to her tank. 3 weeks passed like this. Marcus thought he was being a good husband, or whatever the Thalashan equivalent was. He was polite, respectful, and professional. He made sure Naviera had everything she needed. He even learned a few words in the Thalashan language to greet her each morning. But he never touched her, not once. It was not that he did not want to. Part of him was curious about what her scales would feel like, whether her fins were as soft as they looked. But he had been trained in diplomatic protocol. Different species had different boundaries. Humans were touch-oriented, but many other species found physical contact uncomfortable or even offensive. He did not want to offend his alien wife. On the evening of the 21st day, Marcus was reviewing documents in his study. Naviera was in the main living area, reading something on a Thalashan data device. Marcus got up to get some water from the kitchen. As he walked past Naviera, he gave her his usual wide berth, moving around her in a careful arc. Naviera's bioluminescence suddenly flared bright red. She turned to look at him, her large eyes reflecting the light. For a long moment she just stared. Then she spoke, her voice quiet. "Do humans not touch their bonded partners?" "What? But you never touch me. You move away from me. You will not even come close. I thought perhaps the entertainment programs were wrong about humans. I did not want to make you uncomfortable. I did not want to assume. It means disgust." "No, Naviera, that is not." As she disappeared into her tank, Marcus stood alone in the living area, his heart pounding. He had made a terrible mistake. Marcus did not sleep that night. He sat in his study, researching everything he could find about Thalashan culture. His computer screen glowed in the darkness as he read article after article, watched video after video. He felt like an idiot. How had he missed this? The diplomatic briefings had mentioned that Thalashans were a tactile species, but Marcus had thought that just meant they liked to touch objects, to explore things with their hands. He had not realized it meant touch was their primary form of communication. According to what he was reading, Thalashans rarely used words to express emotions. Instead, they used touch. Different types of touch meant different things. A brush of fingers meant friendship. Pressing palms together meant trust. Touching foreheads meant the deepest bond, reserved only for family and life partners. And avoiding touch, that meant you found someone repulsive, disgusting, unworthy of even basic acknowledgement. For 3 weeks Marcus had been telling Naviera, without words in her own language, that he was revolted by her. "Stupid," Marcus muttered to himself. "Stupid, stupid, stupid." The water inside was still dark. He could see her shape floating in the center, completely motionless except for the gentle movement of her fins keeping her in place. "Naviera," he called softly, "please, can we talk? I know you are awake, please, I need to explain. This bonding was political. You never wanted it, you never wanted me." The message was clear. She was using his own behavior against him. Marcus had prepared his computer with a presentation. He began showing her what he had learned. "Look," he said, "this is information about human culture, about how we view personal space and touch. In others, they avoided it. But in all human cultures, one rule was universal. You always asked for consent before touching someone, especially someone you did not know well. I was taught that touching someone without permission was disrespectful," Marcus explained. "Even offensive. I thought I was being a good partner by giving you space, by letting you choose if and when you wanted contact. I did not know humans thought this way. I was just trying to be respectful in the only way I knew how. Yes, Marcus agreed, we have. No more assumptions. When he arrived, the atmosphere was tense. The council members floated in their water columns, their colors flashing with what Marcus now recognized as anger. The High Chancellor spoke first. Ambassador Chen, we have received complaints from Princess Nevira's attendants. They say you have been treating her with disrespect, that you refuse to touch her, that you avoid her presence. And then you treated her as if she carried a disease. This is an insult to all Thalassians. But the council members were not listening. Their colors grew darker, more aggressive. This proves what we suspected, one of them said. Humans and Thalassians are too different. This bonding was a mistake. We should void the marriage and reconsider the alliance. Not because of politics or duty, but because he genuinely enjoyed her company. Wait, a voice called out. Nevira swam into the council chamber. She moved between Marcus and the council members, her fins spread wide in a protective gesture. You will not void this bonding, she said firmly. Princess Nevira, the High Chancellor said, you do not have to defend him. We know he has treated you poorly. I did not communicate clearly. I expected him to understand our ways without teaching him. He showed me that different species can have different ways of showing respect and care. In his culture, giving space is kindness. In ours, giving touch is kindness. Neither way is wrong. They are just different. We will build our own language, one that honors both our peoples. If Marcus Chen is willing. If there are more problems. That evening in their shared quarters, Nevira began Marcus's education in Thalassian communication. Touch is our primary language, she explained. We use words for facts, for information, but for feelings, for connection, we use touch. Her bioluminescence pulsed in a pattern that seemed to say safe or gentle. Both are acceptable. Her scales were not slimy or cold like he might have expected. They were smooth, almost warm. They had a texture like polished stone that had been sitting in the sun. Her hand was slightly larger than his, with longer fingers that had small webbing between them. The moment their palms touched, Nevira's bioluminescence exploded with color. Waves of light ran up her arms, across her shoulders, down her back. It was like watching fireworks under the ocean. What does that mean? Marcus asked. The lights. Connection. This is how we communicate what words cannot express, Nevira said softly. When a Thalassian child is born, the first thing their pod family does is touch them. It tells the child, you are safe, you are loved, you belong. We carry this need for touch our whole lives. Fingertips to fingertips meant friendship and equality. A hand on the shoulder meant support and solidarity. Pressing the backs of hands together meant playful teasing, like humans might use a gentle punch or nudge. Marcus practiced each one, feeling awkward but trying his best. Nevira was patient, correcting his pressure and positioning. Thalassian children spend years learning proper touch language, she said. You will not master it in one night, but the effort itself means something. It shows me you care enough to try. Then he hesitated. Nevira, can I ask you something? That first day, during the bonding ceremony, you circled around me. Your fins came close but never touched. Why? I was showing the witnesses that I accepted you, that I found you worthy of bonding, but I could not actually touch you during the ceremony. That would have been too forward. The first touch between bonded partners is supposed to happen in private, when both are ready. They continued the lesson late into the night. Nevira taught him about context, how the same touch could mean different things depending on the situation, how duration mattered, how pressure and temperature could add layers of meaning. In return, Marcus taught her about human communication, about how humans used words, facial expressions, and tone of voice to convey emotion. He showed her how a smile could mean happiness, how a frown showed concern. He explained concepts like personal space bubbles and how they varied from person to person. So humans ask permission before entering someone's space? Navira asked. Usually, yes, especially with people we do not know well. Do bonded humans not share space freely? The Council expects us to function as true bonded partners. We must accelerate what would normally take your people months or years. Every day, we will teach each other, learn each other, until this becomes natural. The situation was still complicated. They were still strangers in many ways, but they were trying. They were communicating. That had to count for something. The next morning, Marcus woke to find Navira already awake, floating near the window of their quarters. She was watching the sunrise over Thalassia Prime, the planet's 3 moons still visible in the pink sky. Her bioluminescence was pulsing gently, colors shifting like a slow heartbeat. "Good morning," Marcus said. Navira turned and offered her palm in the greeting gesture she had taught him the night before. Marcus crossed the room and pressed his palm to hers. Her lights brightened immediately. "Good morning, Marcus Chen," she said. "I have been thinking. We should create a schedule for our lessons. Structure will help us learn faster." Every morning, Navira would teach Marcus about Thalassian culture for 1 hour. Every evening, Marcus would teach Navira about human customs for 1 hour. During the day, they would practice what they learned during their normal diplomatic duties. "And we should keep journals," Navira suggested, "to record what we learn, to track our progress." "I studied xenobiology before I became involved in diplomatic work. Did your briefings not mention this?" "They probably assumed a princess just sits around looking decorative." He learned that Thalassians did not have individual families like humans did. Instead, they had pods of 8 to 12 individuals who raised children together. He learned that Thalassians could control their bioluminescence consciously, but that strong emotions made the lights respond automatically, revealing their true feelings. He learned the different types of touch. Light touches with fingertips meant casual friendship. Firm palm-to-palm pressure meant deep trust. Wrapping fingers together meant partnership and cooperation. And the forehead touch, which Navira mentioned only briefly, her colors turning shy, meant the deepest possible bond, usually reserved for life mates who had been together for many years. "Can you show me the forehead touch?" Marcus asked one morning. Navira's bioluminescence flickered rapidly. "No, not yet. That touch is very intimate. It is not something to practice. It is something to share when both partners are truly ready, when the bond is real." He showed her movies and explained why humans cried at sad parts. He taught her about humor and sarcasm, which confused her greatly at first. "So when you say the opposite of what you mean, that is funny?" she asked. "Sometimes, yes. If the context is right. They are all different." "Why did the Thalassian refuse to share their kelp?" she asked one evening. "I do not know why." "I made you smile." They occasionally touched hands when passing documents. These small gestures seemed to satisfy the Thalassian council members, who watched them carefully. One day, the human ambassador from Earth Station arrived for an inspection. Ambassador Rodriguez was a stern woman who had been doing diplomatic work for 30 years. She pulled Marcus aside during a break in the meetings. "I heard about the marriage situation," she said. "The cultural misunderstanding. We have resolved it. Because if you need to be very careful. This is still fundamentally a political arrangement. When your posting ends in 2 years, you will return to Earth. She will remain here. Getting emotionally involved will only make that harder." The end of his posting had seemed so far away, not something to worry about now. But Rodriguez was right. Eventually, he would have to leave. "I understand, ma'am," he said quietly. But that night, when Navira taught him a new Thalassian greeting that involved a gentle touch on the shoulder, Marcus realized it was too late. He was already involved. He already cared about her, more than he should. He just did not know if she felt the same way. 2 months after their fresh start, a crisis emerged. A rival Thalassian faction called the Deep Current Movement began protesting the human alliance. They believed that Thalassians should remain isolated, that contact with other species would corrupt their culture. The leader of this movement was a council member named Vorath, whose scales were dark purple and whose eyes were cold. Vorath called for a public debate about the alliance, and specifically, he called for an examination of the royal bonding. "This marriage is a farce," Vorath declared in the council chamber, his colors flashing with anger. "The human ambassador avoids touching our princess. He finds her repulsive. This proves that humans cannot truly bond with Thalassians. We are too different." Without hesitation, Marcus pressed his palm to hers. Then, in front of the entire council, they performed the traditional Thalassian greeting dance. It was a simple dance, just a series of coordinated hand movements and touches, but it required synchronization and trust. Marcus had been practicing it for weeks, though he still was not very good at it. They moved together, palm to palm, then fingertips to fingertips, then a gentle touch on each other's shoulders, then back to palms. Marcus stumbled slightly on the third rotation, but Neveira smoothly guided him back into rhythm. Her bioluminescence pulsed in time with their movements, creating patterns of light that filled the chamber. When they finished, the council chamber was silent. Then one council member began to pulse with approving colors, then another. Soon, half the council was glowing with positive light. "This proves nothing," Vorath said. "Anyone can learn a dance, but can the human truly understand what it means to bond with a Thalassian? Can he understand the depth of connection our species requires? A choice to keep learning about each other, even when it is difficult. Have your hearts aligned. If the royal bonding is not genuine, how can we trust that the alliance between our peoples will be genuine?" Synchronization is when two Thalassians spend so much time together that their bioluminescence begins to pulse in the same rhythm. It is a sign of deep bonding, of true connection. Usually, it takes years to develop. Neveira's lights dimmed. "No, not yet, but as Marcus said, we are learning, we are trying." Others defended Neveira and Marcus. The High Chancellor tried to restore order but struggled to make himself heard over the commotion. Marcus felt frustration building in his chest. This was not fair. They had been working so hard, learning so much. And now it was being dismissed because they had not achieved something that normally took years. "Enough!" Marcus's voice cut through the noise. Everyone turned to look at him. "You want to know if our bonding is real," he said. "You want proof. Then let us participate in the Festival of Tides." The High Chancellor spoke, his colors grave. "The Festival of Tides is our most sacred celebration. Bonded pairs participate in the Trust Dive, a ceremony where partners must synchronize completely, diving together from the sacred cliffs into the deep waters. It requires perfect coordination, perfect trust. If partners are not truly bonded, they will fail. The dive could be dangerous." Marcus had 3 days to prepare for something that normally took years to master. "We will do it," Marcus said firmly. He looked at Neveira. "If you are willing." Finally she settled on a steady, bright gold. "I am willing," she said. Vorath laughed a harsh sound. "This will be a disaster. The human will fail, and everyone will see that this bonding is false. It is about choosing to connect despite being different. It is too dangerous if you are not ready." "Neveira, I am not going to let Vorath destroy what we have built. We have worked too hard. We have learned too much. You could request a transfer. Let another diplomat handle the alliance. Not as a princess or a political partner, as a person, as my wife." Bright golds and silvers and blues swirled across her body like galaxies being born. "Marcus Chen," she said, her voice shaking. "I care about you too, more than I should, more than is wise for someone who will eventually leave. We have these 3 days, and maybe we can figure out the rest later." "Tomorrow," Neveira said, Tomorrow we begin training. I will teach you everything I know about the trust dive. And Marcus. 3 days to prepare for something most Thalassians trained for their entire lives. 3 days to prove that his bond with Neveira was real. He found Neveira already awake in the training pool attached to their quarters. The pool was deep, 30 feet, and connected to the larger water systems of the station. She floated in the center, her bioluminescence creating shifting patterns in the dark water. "Ready to begin?" she asked. "As ready as I will ever be." First, the partners must swim together in perfect synchronization to the top of the sacred cliffs. Second, they must dive together, matching their movements exactly. Third, they must navigate the deep waters together, staying connected the entire time. Partners must enter the water at exactly the right angle and location, or they can be injured badly. We can find another way to prove ourselves. We have to see this through. Neveira taught Marcus the basic swimming synchronization. They had to move as one unit. When she moved her right arm, he moved his left. When she kicked, he kicked. Their breathing had to match, their speed had to match, everything had to match. Marcus was a decent swimmer by human standards, but Thalassian swimming was completely different. Neveira moved through the water like she was born in it, because she was. Every movement was fluid, graceful, efficient. Marcus felt clumsy and awkward by comparison, splashing when he should glide, rushing when he should flow. "Stop thinking so much," Neveira said after his 20th failed attempt. "You are trying to control every movement. Instead, feel the water, feel me. Let your body respond naturally. When I know the dance well, I just move, I feel the music." He focused on the feeling of the water moving around him, the sensation of Neveira swimming nearby. He could feel the currents she created with her movements, the gentle pressure waves that reached him moments before she changed direction. He began to move with those currents instead of against them. "Better," Neveira's voice was excited. "Much better, keep going." It was like learning to dance with a new partner. At first, you stepped on each other's toes, but eventually, you learned to read each other's body language, to anticipate the next move. By the end of the first day, Marcus could follow Neveira through basic swimming patterns without completely embarrassing himself. It was not perfect, but it was progress. The second day was harder. Neveira introduced him to the actual dive. They went to a simulation chamber where the dive could be safely practiced. The chamber created a holographic representation of the sacred cliffs, a sheer drop of 200 feet into churning water below. "We stand at the edge together," Neveira explained. "We count to 3 in the Thalassian way, with synchronized light pulses. Then we dive as one. If we are separated when we enter, the currents will pull us apart. We must stay connected the entire time." Marcus kept entering the water too early or too late. His angle was wrong. His form was wrong. Everything was wrong. "Again," Neveira said patiently. "Watch my body. When I lean forward, you lean forward at exactly the same moment. Stop thinking." That night Marcus sat in their quarters feeling defeated. His body ached from the constant training. His lungs burned from the hours underwater, and they only had one more day. Neveira emerged from her tank and floated over to where he sat. "You are improving," she said. "Not fast enough. What if I fail tomorrow? But I am not worried about what failure means for the Alliance or the politics. I am worried about you getting hurt. Those rocks are real, Marcus, if you hit them wrong. I will not let you down. For months now, we have been dancing around this, learning each other's cultures, practicing touches, spending every day together, and yet you still keep this wall between us. I thought, for training, for diplomatic appearances, but you never touch me because you want to, because you choose to, not the way bonded partners truly touch. It is not just matching movements. It is not just training and practice. It is connection at the deepest level. It is when two beings trust each other so completely that their very essences align. Then why do you still hold back? Why do you still treat this as a performance, as a duty? I have watched you these past months. You are kind, respectful, dedicated to learning. But you are also careful, so careful. You give me exactly what is required and nothing more. The words tumbled out now, unable to be stopped. You were right, this started as political, a marriage of convenience, and I told myself to keep it that way, to be professional, to do my duty without getting involved. But then you were there every morning with something new to teach me. You laughed at my terrible jokes. You got excited about teaching me your language. You cared about me learning, not just for the alliance, but because you wanted me to understand you. And somewhere along the way, I stopped being able to pretend this was just political. That my posting here is temporary. That getting emotionally involved would only make it harder when I have to go. And she is right. In less than 2 years, I will be reassigned. I will go back to Earth. And you will stay here. I do not want this to end, but I do not know how to make it not end. And I thought if I did not let myself feel too much, it would hurt less when I had to go. Do you know how Thalassians experience time? But that does not make the current less real or less important. I care about you as a person, as a partner, as someone who has become important to my life. And yes, maybe you will leave in 2 years. Maybe this will end, but we have now. We have these moments. And I would rather have 2 years of something real than a lifetime of careful distance. Not because of duty or diplomacy or because the council is watching, but because you want to, because you feel what I feel. Stop being so careful. Touch me because you want to, not because it is proper or required. Let yourself be truly present with me. At the gentle pulsing of her bioluminescence, at the hope and fear mixed in her eyes, at the way her fins moved with agitation. She was beautiful. She was brilliant. She was brave enough to be vulnerable with him even knowing he might leave. And he had been a coward. You are right, he said. I have been holding back. I have been so focused on not getting hurt that I did not think about how I was hurting you. I am sorry. Not the careful diplomat version. He placed his hand gently against her face, cupping her cheek the way she had touched him that morning. Her skin was smooth and warm under his palm. Her bioluminescence flared bright at the contact, and he felt her lean into his touch. I choose you, Marcus said quietly. Not because of politics or alliances, not because it is my duty. I choose you because when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I want to see is your lights, because your laugh makes me happy, because you challenge me and teach me and make me want to be better. I choose you, Nevira, for however long we have. The deepest bond. Marcus had only heard about it, never experienced it. The moment their foreheads connected, something incredible happened. Nevira's bioluminescence, synchronized with his heartbeat. Each pulse of light matched exactly with the rhythm of his heart. It was like she was glowing in time with his very life force. This, Nevira whispered, this is true synchronization. When I can feel your essence, when your rhythm becomes my rhythm. Now, she said, now we are ready for the trust dive.